my first bad, quote unquote, bad grade came in my second semester when I genuinely enjoyed the scores and I still did bad in terms of the grade. And what bothered me most was that I had a good friend who did not enjoy the course. And I used to be the one who enjoyed the course. And the teacher even remembers me till this moment as the person who used to be in the first bench and following every single lecture. And I'm still in touch with that professor. But I ended up with the C. I don't think he knows that. And
everyone. This is a super exciting first episode. The topic for today's episode is academics. So, before we get started in today's episode, maybe we can have a quick round of introductions, what you studied in Instea, what you're doing now. I can get started. So, I graduated from Instea in 2020 with a BTech in EP, which was engineering physics. And now I'm doing a PhD in applied physics. Mythreyi, do you want to go next?
Hi, my name is Mythreyi Ramesh. I did interdisciplinary dual degree at Instea. My BTech was in metallurgical and materials engineering, and my MTech was in computational engineering. And I'm currently doing a PhD in material science and engineering at Northwestern University. And my field of specialization is computational material science.
Does Kavitha want to go next, maybe?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Kavitha Gopal. I did computer science BTech and I graduated in 2019. And since then I've been working as a software engineer.
Shruti? I'll go last.
Yeah, thanks Niharika, Shruti, for organizing this. And super excited to take this forward. To introduce myself, I did mechanical engineering, BTech, graduated in 2019 and worked in consulting after that, now working with a startup. So pretty much pretty much in the non-core sector and different from what I actually studied. So yeah, that's about me, and let's see how it goes.
Great. So I'm Shruti. I graduated in 2021 from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Madras with a Master's in English Studies. And right now I'm working as a teacher instructor, teacher educator. So I'm working as a freelance teacher educator, but I'm also working as a teacher, in fact, at Instea for the IIT Madras online degree program. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so maybe we can get started. Maybe Niharika, do you want to go right in with the first question?
Yeah, so let's start all the way at the beginning. So you've just written JEE, you got your branch, you got the IIT, you know where you're going. So you've arrived at IIT Madras. What were your first thoughts about the branch that you were now going to, be a part of? And what was your attitude towards academics when you started out? Did you want to give it a chance? Were you exploring? Did you already know you didn't want to do engineering? Anyone who wants to start?
Yeah, maybe I can take that. So when I joined, I actually was in ocean engineering. And so I had come with a mindset that I need to branch change in my first semester. And I basically didn't carry any gadgets with me. I didn't want to get distracted. I only wanted to study in my first semester. Like, I had that phone which did not even have a touch screen. I used to go to DKC to study. So for me, I think I was very focused on what I wanted to achieve in my first semester. which was study and get a branch change. And I think that eventually worked out, and I was able to move to mechanical engineering. And yeah, post that, how I thought about academics changed a bit, although I continued to focus on it for my first year. And then I thought maybe I can relax and I want to do something else. So kept changing, and maybe we can discuss that later. But yeah.
How about you, Kavitha? What was it like when you first came to Instea?
Yeah. So when I came to Instea, I was very, very, very happy, very excited because I got into Instea and it was like a dream come true for me. So I think that was one thing. I actually joined in the electrical engineering department, and I also changed my branch. So I changed it from electrical engineering to computer science and engineering. And again, not something which I really planned for, but but I think that I sort of like the courses that I did in the first semester, and I got a good CG at the end of it. So I just so I got that branch change. But overall, like the way I looked at academics was like, I am at this place where there's so much to learn, so much to explore. So I should make the best out of it, explore more, and then figure out what it is that I really want to do, right? So yeah.
Mythreyi, how about you?
Yeah, so I have a slightly different story. So I think when I first got into Instea, I was interested in many departments. But the thing that suited my interest most was material science, because I thought that would be a good, safe, generalist department in which I could focus on things. But the day I came in, I wanted to do a branch change, but not to computer science. I was initially thinking mechanical, but in the end, I zoned in on engineering physics. I came in with an intention to do a branch change into engineering physics so that I could become a particle physicist at CERN.
Ooh.
And then I went to my department orientation. And there was this professor who said, you've come to material science. These are the people who have done good things here. These are the people who have gone from material science into different departments and done good things there. Now, I know that most of you think that you have not gotten what you wanted, but you can either spend the next 4 or 5 years thinking about how you didn't get what you want, or you could actually look at what you have and see what you can do. And that made a lot of sense to me. And I was thinking, well, if I was initially thinking of physics, then maybe I'm interested in science. Maybe I want to do this. And therefore, I decided that day, literally that day, that I am not going to look for a branch change.
Oh no.
And since
could have been in
then,
my department.
and since then, I did not think twice about material science. In fact, a lot of people who met me in my first year would know me as the person who was crusading for material science. Yeah, this is a good field. Yes, you have to listen to us. We are people and things like that. And I think what ended up happening was most people in Meta or other departments apply for a branch change. So I didn't submit my application because I was like, I don't want to move. Even if, I mean, in retrospect, I would not have gotten it also, but I was not ready to say that. And I was actually not interested in studying too much in my first year because I was thinking, okay, I've done all this studying for JEE. I should explore. I don't want to that's what I thought, ruin my first semester by studying too much. I should instead go to music or like Freshie Night or, they go to these iBot clubs and like elect clubs and things like that. So I spent most of my first semester running from one thing to another. And the day I downloaded my books was the day we had a quiz. So I was on the complete other side of like academics in my first semester. And when I graduated, I was completely different. So I think we can talk more about that later. Yeah. But that is how I entered Instea. I didn't want to leave Meta, and I was not interested in studying for a branch change.
That's interesting because there's a lot of similarity between your journey and mine. I remember coming to Instea very tired, and I just knew these 2 years where I repressed all my interest, this one semester, it's all going to come out like a tap that hasn't been opened in so long. It's going to flow. So I got into engineering physics, and I was pretty happy with that. Except the mindset with which I entered was, I'm here for the electrical engineering parts of EP, and I'll tolerate the physics, and then I'll graduate. And yeah, the complete opposite happened. And hopefully we get a chance to dig into how that happened. But yeah, when I entered my first semester, I was like, man, these physics courses, I'm going to tolerate these physics courses, but I'm here for the ELEC, which was, a very interesting shift. And yeah, I was also like very involved in extracurriculars. My third year self and my fourth year self might have liked if I put a little bit more time into my studying in my first year and my first semester. That would have really saved and helped my GPA. But it all's well that ends well, and we'll get into that through this podcast as well. But I'm interested to know about Shruti, Ranjani, your journey, because you are not from the tech sphere. You were in humanities. So how was that like?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I was a science student earlier on, and I had consciously made a choice not to write the JEE, and I consciously wanted to go into the humanities. But I actually had no idea what the humanities would look like. So when I came into the department, it was more of a wow, these are things that I've never encountered before. And this is just mind blowing. Everything is changing your worldview because you're so small, you're very young, you don't know things about the world. So I think that was the mindset with which I entered the department. And academics in themselves was the refreshing part for me. So that's why I really liked doing, the academic parts of things. I did spend a lot of time on my academics in my first 2 years. So I was just exploring. It's not, I mean, the department, the course itself is very, interdisciplinary. So you don't get bored because one subject to the other, it's very different. So I really enjoyed academics part of it in the beginning. Although I was involved in, I was trying out a few things, extracurriculars, both at the Instea level and at the department level. But I think slowly over the course of my 5 years, I sort of really got attached to the department and did mostly department-oriented extracurriculars.
Right. So that was a good amount of nostalgia for me, because this is what, close to 5-6 years ago for all of us.
Yeah.
But no matter how many years have passed, I don't think I will forget how much of a tough time some courses gave me while I was in Instea. So does anyone want to talk about one course that gave you a really hard time, or just like took over your entire semester?
Also, I want to add one course that sort of made you doubt your natural capability for
Yeah, that
the
as well. That as well.
branch that you're choosing.
I mean,
Natural
I can
quote-unquote.
get started. So I remember entering EP thinking, I'm going to tolerate the physics. I might give physics a little bit of a chance, but really I'm here for the electrical engineering. So when I first came in, we had this course called Thermodynamics and Kinetic Theory, which was specific to EP. It was a very different kind of thermo from what all the engineering students had to do. And it was very, very exciting. The course, we were talking about black holes and entropy and this and that. And I would remember sitting in that class with just so much awe. And the professor, who was a great professor, he would just use these mathematical tools like Taylor expansions and binomial expansions and this and that. And I would just sit there like watching a magician, because it was very elegant the way he would solve things, but I never understood how that idea came to his head to use this particular mathematical tool at this point. And while I was very much in awe of the class and the concepts, I remember thinking, oh man, like there is no chance I'm going to make it in physics, because none of this comes naturally to me. Like this is just not my thing.
I think for me, um, there was one course on thermodynamics in mechanical engineering, which I had studied well. I understood the concepts, but somehow the exams didn't go well. I ended up making silly mistakes, etc. And I took it easy. I was like, okay, fine, I'm not going to do mechanical engineering. I'll just focus my efforts to other courses which I like. And yeah, I think uh, I basically uh, was quite okay with the fact that I don't like mechanical engineering that much. I liked a few courses, particularly depending on how a professor taught. Like some professors, like one or two courses, they taught really well, and I liked that. But I was more or less convinced like it's okay even if I don't do well. I'll not gonna do anything about it. So uh, yeah, I don't think I let any course specifically made my semester bad. I just took it easy. I thought maybe I'll get a less grade, which is okay.
Yeah, I think that's a great outlook.
I
Kavitha?
can go next. Yeah. So I think I can think of a few courses that were sort of challenging for me. And like I think one course which I found difficult was engineering drawing. Like it was like there. So in this course, you used to have a lot of assignments where you had to spend so many hours trying to get those lines straight, or you can't even erase the the assignment. I think it was a very difficult course for me, and I struggled with every assignment. But yeah, I think that was one course which I think I'd say. And in CS department, if you see, I think there's this fifth semester, I think, where there are a lot of core CS courses, and each of them is difficult. And it's just that in that one semester, you have so many core CS courses, each of them having their own set of assignments. And there would just be, a lot of deadlines, a lot of assignments to do. So I think that was a very challenging semester because like once you get done with one assignment, you know that you have so many more pending to do, and you just have to keep doing that. So I think yeah, but at the other side, it was also a lot of learning in that one semester, because you have so many courses which are sort of the foundation of computer science. And I think there was a lot of learning in that one semester, and it was like, really challenging and fulfilling at the same time, I'd say. So yeah, that would be my experience.
Yeah. I think to talk about my journey, I mentioned how I had a very nonchalant outlook about academics in my first year. And then I realized one thing midway, that although I was actively trying to not think about academics, I realized I genuinely enjoyed every moment I spent studying when it was time for quizzes, or, like all I would think then was like, why did I not do this before? This is so fun. And so what I liked was that at the end of my first year is when I got this huge moment when I sat down, I studied my first C in physics, and I was pretty upset that I genuinely liked the course. But if I had only spent a little bit more time doing it ahead of time when the course was going on, I could have done much better. I was just a little disappointed that I had that regret. And so what I did is I came in my second year, which was my third semester, with an attitude that I should learn the concepts properly. And I think that was also not like super helpful, because I spent the whole semester actually understanding things deeply. But I was not worried about, like, the nitty gritty thoughts like exams. I was like, I don't care about exams. I just need to know the concepts and I'm fine. And then it was only during a discussion during the winter break with a good friend of mine that she told me, Mythreyi, it's not your job to just know the idea. It's your job to actually get it done and like go to the point where, it makes sense. So you're in charge of not just the theory, but also the actual, like details in that. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. I think only in my fourth semester did I figure out that attention to detail is also important. And I think that's when I cracked in some sense, how to crack Instea courses. And so I figured out that yes, you need to put in time and effort into it throughout the semester, as much as you can at least. But when it comes to quizzes and NSEMs, you actually have to pay a little bit of attention to them. And once I figured that out, I think in my third year, fifth semester, I started loading up my semesters with a lot of difficult courses, because I figured out that I really like computation material science. So I started doing courses which had a lot of assignments. I did like 2 or 3 grad level courses every semester, apologies. And then I figured out that I was one among those people who would not have enough fingers on both hands to count how many assignments were due that time. And I would spend time after the NSEMs to turn in my assignments, because they were grad level courses. We wouldn't have exams all the time. We'd also have end papers or like presentations or something. And everybody would be partying after, at least mentally. And I would sit down. I still remember the final assignment I turned in one even semester was on May 20th. The semester ends on, and I think 21st is the deadline for grades or something. So I was doing assignments when everybody was like done. And I think I figured that there's not 1 or 2 courses that made my semesters bad. I wouldn't even say bad. In retrospect, I really enjoyed every course that I put a lot of effort into. But I think that it was my electives and the way I chose things that I like doing that I started enjoying the process. And I figured out that maybe I am a little bit of a nerd. I have to accept that at that point and then just like focus on that. Like, if I like it, then why don't I just do it properly? So I think that is how I felt about how, like, loaded semesters were actually fun in retrospect or something like that. It sounds a bit odd, but I think some people do agree with me. And I know that I'm not the only one who did that. So yeah, that was just my journey.
That's interesting. I actually agree with you in the sense that anytime I opened a really nice textbook, like a few days before the exam, just like the fresh pages and the nice figures, I used to think, okay, after this quiz, I'm going to sit and I'm going to read like this textbook really nicely. Look how well presented the content and all of this is. And I did do that maybe for like a course or two, but not as regularly as I would have liked. That emotion used to peak right before the quiz, which was usually the most, it's usually when I would actually open up that textbook. And that's when I realized, okay, maybe I should start separating the grade and the tension and the workload of the semester to one side, and then discover and acknowledge the fact that I still liked physics. I still liked electrical engineering. So I should give these things a chance. But yeah, that was interesting. So a variety of experiences there. Shruti, do you wanna?
That's a little bit different for me again. I think that's owing to the fact that my department was different. It was more of a process all the time. So we had our assignments and term papers and everything was spread over the semester. So we had deadlines that were spread over the semester. So there weren't as many frantic last minute. I mean, in the initial years, we did have quizzes, but then there weren't quizzes per se where you had to sit down the night before and do. Of course, writing term papers also does happen that way, but then the thinking and the research and all of that goes into the actual writing of the paper. That was more of a process, and I think I enjoyed that. But coming to the question that was asked before in terms of a course that made me question, again, my answer is a bit vague because there wasn't one particular course that made me doubt my abilities, whether I was cut out for quote unquote the liberal arts broadly, but rather certain questions or certain topics that we had to write about, or specific ways of approaching, a topic that we had to write an essay on or a term paper on. So there were times when I couldn't maybe come up with a compelling argument. And those were times I doubted my abilities, but not a particular course or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I think we can take that to the point of grades. I think, Niharika, do you want to talk about grades in particular? Low
Oh,
grades, quote
sure.
unquote.
Yeah. So have do you guys remember the first time you got a grade that you didn't like? And Kavitha will get to you in the end because that question does not apply to you. But does anybody want to take that question? Just go back to the first time you opened up View Grades, that olive green HTML page, and then you saw that letter there and you were like, damn it. I
I
can
think
start actually. I remember mine. Um, so it was my birthday and it was in the summer, and I just knew I had a bad grade coming in this course. But my only hope was it shouldn't come on this day. I don't want my birthday to be ruined by this grade. And at the time, we were at a place where there was no network. We were at a hill station. And I was like, this is great. I don't even have network here. Even if I want to check my grade, I can't check my grade. This is brilliant. And I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, around afternoon time, for like 2 seconds, I got not only mobile network, I got 3G. And I was racing to go put it on airplane mode. In that time, all of these WhatsApp messages loaded. And I remember seeing in my department chat, digital systems grades out. And my heart just sank. Now, after I knew that, I just had to check my grade. Um, and to my surprise, this 3G network that I just didn't have all day was still on. And so then I open up View Grades and then I log in and there I saw the grade. But the crazy part was as soon as I finished seeing my grade, it went back to no network for the rest of the day. It was like some universe conspired to, make sure I had that experience that day. Oh man, yeah, I remember that was not a great day, but I remember sitting thinking, oh, what is my future? What am I gonna do now? It felt like the end of the world. And now it's very comical for me looking back because it was one course. But as a first year, as a freshie, I had like zero perspective at the time. And I spent so many hours crying about this, not literally, but just like whining about this to my Sathi mentors, some of who are your very good friends. Every time I met them in the mess, I'd be like, listen, I got this grade. You think it's gonna work out? And I got so adept at doing these calculations for which grade I should get in which course and like how I was going to recover from this. Like, how am I going to recover from this? And I wish I really chilled out, but at the time I did not. And that is my bad grade story.
I think I think for me there is no particular. So whenever I got a bad grade, I was like, fine, just leave it. I didn't bother much about it. But there was one time in my first semester when after a quiz, the first quiz marks were out for the CS 101 course, and I had done really bad in that. And because that was a time when I was thinking that I need to top the class to be able to branch change. And I get the first quiz like below average. I was like, that was a difficult time. I was just like, what my future is going to be like. Like, I think I'm going to like be in this department forever. And that was a slightly difficult time. And then eventually I realized, okay, let's forget about it. Let's see how to like cope up with it. And then I, just put in all the effort to study that course properly for the remaining part of it and managed to get not the worst grade. Like I didn't get a C and I was just happy with that. And then the course. So yeah, it happens. I think when we are very associated, uh, uh, when we think there is some outcome that we are trying to achieve with a certain course and certain set of courses, and that doesn't work in our way, like disappointment is natural. Yeah, just figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah. Just to add to that, from my perspective, I think there were two moments that I remember very strongly. One was my first below average score, because I think that was a very new experience for me. I was never used to that ever in my life before, and when it first came, it came in my first semester, and I was genuinely quite disappointed, but not disappointed enough to come out of my, oh, I'm gonna like chill attitude, but still it was something that I felt very strongly about. But at the end of the first semester, I was actually fine. For what I did in my quiz, I felt that I saved, quote unquote, saved my grades. And I was very happy. But then I think my first bad, quote unquote, bad grade came in my second semester, when I genuinely enjoyed the scores and I still did bad in terms of the grade. And what bothered me most was that I had a good friend who did not enjoy the course, and I used to be the one who enjoyed the course. And the teacher even remembers me till this moment as the person who used to be in the first bench and following every single lecture. And I'm still in touch with that professor. But I ended up with the C. I don't think he knows that. And I think that was what bothered me most. And I think I got this when I was on vacation. It was my first year vacation. I actually was outside India, and similar to Niharika, I had internet in only in the hotel because I didn't have data outside. And I checked my grades and I got a C. I knew it would be bad, but it was pretty bad. I know that in retrospect, I felt very bad about it because I could have done better, is what I thought. It was not the grade that disappointed me. It was just that I would not mind getting a bad grade if I had put efforts. And that's when I understood that I don't really mind that much about the grade. It was mostly the effort that mattered. So as long as I tried my best, I was fine with whatever grade I got after that. But I made sure that I did not regret not putting efforts, I think. And I think in retrospect, again, I'm happy that it happened my first year and not later on. But then again, because it happened my first year, I learned a few things that helped me become better in final year. So I think it goes both ways. So I feel that it's a unique experience, which I think most people would have, because you're putting together a lot of people who have done really well throughout their lives. And it's not possible to fit a Gaussian when you've cut off the outliers and you're putting a Gaussian there. So I think it's mostly like it's a process and you will learn to deal with it. But I think for me, after that, it became more about the efforts than the grades. But it took a while to get there. And I'm glad that I got an opportunity to get that, maybe. But yeah, that's just me with the bias of hindsight bias, or what they call it. Yeah.
Kavitha, I think Kavitha is a President's Gold Medal winner. Needs no introduction. So it's very interesting to know. I would be very interested to know, what your experience with low grades were.
Yeah, I can try to answer. So I think I kind of agree with what Mythreyi is saying, in the sense that, like, so for example, right, like for a course, like there's a chance that you can get a low grade for any sort of reason. It could be that maybe that just that one day did not work out for you, maybe that day of the quiz or the day of the NSEM, it just did not work out for you, or you just made a few mistakes, and or like maybe you know that you could have done better, and the grade does not really sort of, it's not really a defining factor of what your interests are or what your future in that field should be. And or it could have been for any reason, right? Like maybe you could not focus on that day. So I think like the same thing, that a low grade should not be a defining factor. And if that field, or like if that is something of interest to you, it should be okay to just pursue whatever is your passion, pursue whatever is your interest, regardless of what grade is just the outcome, right? Like I think the process is more important, the process of you like learning whatever you're learning, and like I think the enjoyment of learning those new things. For me, I think I really enjoyed everything that I learned in CS. So there used to be these really elegant algorithms for solving some problem. And I just used to wonder that how did people even come up with these algorithms? Like it just used to be so elegant, so beautiful. And I think those were the points where I really got amazed. And I wouldn't say that like there were a lot of courses that were very challenging, right? And I think I really enjoyed that challenge, that this is something which is really difficult to do, but I am giving my best, I am trying. And the grade is just the outcome. It should not be a defining factor in what you think you are interested in, or what your goals are and what your interests are. Yeah, this would be my take on this.
Right. I have a slightly different experience because my first bad grade was a D. I think probably my only D. And it was because I hadn't managed my time well, which ended up, in a way that I couldn't do my NSEM well. And that NSEM happened to count for 80% of the course, which is very unusual for an HS department course. So yeah, I did regret that because I did not put in the efforts. So it was not about the grade in itself, but just because I couldn't manage my time well and had to make trade-offs a few days before that were inevitable, that I really could not. I really didn't have a choice. So yeah, I think that brings us to the question of when do you actually give up on a course? When do things sort of become so out of control or become so hard that you give up on that course entirely?
I don't think I have ever given up on a course. But there was a downside to that, which was in some courses that I found challenging, and suppose quiz one didn't really work my way, I would set up the rest of the semester as like this super high stakes battle where now I have to make up for quiz one. And for instance, if quiz two also didn't go well, then it became even higher stakes where I'd be like, okay, now I have to make up in NSEM what I, squandered in quiz one and quiz two. And sometimes, the way some of these exams are structured, you have 50 minutes. 50 minutes is usually not a lot of time. It when you go in with that extra mental pressure each time, that not only do I have to do good, I have to do extra good to make up for what I think I've lost before. That is too much mental pressure to go into courses with. And I think in my first year, I did that for a course or two. And in hindsight, I feel like if I had given up, in the sense that I'd stopped worrying so much about how the exam was going to go and just learn the concept and just gone in to write the exam. If I'd given up the over worrying, I think I would have had more of a pleasant experience with those courses. That being said, I understand it's super easy for me to now, being on this side of it, say, oh, you shouldn't have worried. But the way the conventional fun day wisdom went around in Instea was always, you have to get a certain CG. And it didn't matter what you wanted to do, but every fun day, it started with that. And I think because that was such a central part of all of this wisdom that was imparted in Instea, it was very difficult for me to chill out on that aspect. So I wish, I actually wish I gave up in that sense, but I don't think I've like full on given up on any course. But it was very stressful, being so like attached to your performance in every course, like 5 to 6 courses a semester, and then semester after semester. So yeah.
Yeah. To add to Niharika's point, I think I'm in the same boat, as in, I don't think I have ever given up on my efforts in a course, but there have been a lot of moments where I was very close to being super overwhelmed, that I started, like, I couldn't work anymore at a point because there was just so much to do, and I did not feel comfortable with even like accepting that. And I think one thing that I learned out of that was that sometimes the circumstances are out of your hands. Like, something could go wrong on that day and so on. But most of the times, all the efforts that you put into a course, irrespective of what happened before in it, like maybe you did bad in your quizzes and maybe you only have the NSEM to like make up for it. But I feel that, for example, given example, I think there was this one course that I did in math where the professor gave me 20% or 10% extra if I use LaTeX for my assignments. And the assignments were very math heavy. And I used to use LaTeX before, but it was not to like write a lot of math equations and proofs. But I used to finish solving the assignments, which were in themselves pretty hard. But I would spend the entire Sunday just typing it up in LaTeX beautifully, out of sheer, I don't know, sense of pride that I should not give up. And surprisingly, in the end, he did a rounding. Instead of rounding, he used the seal function. And because I had a 0.01 in the decimal point, it sealed up to the next, which actually changed my grade. So, and I think it was very weird when I thought about it. Like, why would I have spent like 10 hours extra doing an assignment when I already finished it? But I think that it's a bad lesson to give as a takeaway, because like, it doesn't make so much sense after a point. But I feel if it's your personal satisfaction that matters the most. So if you feel like you want to give in that effort, you should probably do it, but definitely don't put all the weight in the results, because it could go anyways. But just like, I think that's what I would say. It's okay to give up on expectations, but it's not okay to give up on efforts, is what I would say, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I can go. So I think, yeah, the things that are covered that was told by Mythreyi, Niharika, like I think all of those are, I think, useful things to know for us. And maybe some things which I want to add is, in general, if there is some course which, let's say, is difficult or you find it hard, right? It's all right to drop it. That's something which I feel. Because dropping courses is also an option that is given to students to exercise, and it is all right to exercise that option for some reason that, like, maybe so I can think of several reasons, right? So I think in some semesters it has been that there have been too many courses that semester, and there's just a lot of courses, and everyone has a limited amount of energy, so you have to focus that energy somewhere and figure out what it is that actually aligns with your interests, right? So in that sense, if there is some course that you maybe want to drop because you have too many other courses, or maybe it's not what you expected it would be, so there could be different reasons, and I think for each of these it is all right to drop it. So for example, I once took a master's level math course, and I wasn't super sure what the course was going to be, and I attended a few initial classes, and I didn't really understand anything that was being taught in the class. And but everyone was, following along, and the course did not have any prerequisites when I actually signed up for it. But then everyone just knew so much about some other previous course, and I had no idea. So I think it turned out that there actually was some prerequisite which I just hadn't done. So it didn't really make sense for me to continue that further. So I think there can be many many different reasons. But if it is a course that is, something that is that is interest to you, but maybe it's difficult or it is challenging, right? Then I think, and that has been the case for a lot of courses, but I think in those places, I don't think I considered dropping as even an option. For me, it was always, let's just, try to face this challenge, try to see what I can do, just give it my best. And no matter what the outcome is, let me just give it my best, right? So I think this was the way I looked at the courses.
Yeah, I actually agree a lot with Kavitha, which is, it really depends on one's interest at that level, whether you want to continue doing a course or whether you want to skip it altogether. And I remember in my last semester, I had sort of taken up a BTP project with the professor, almost started to sort of do it. Um, but then later, as I was getting into it, I realized like at that point in time, I did not want to focus more efforts into studying and into, because I think over the Insti period, I was putting in a lot of effort into some curricular activities, a lot of other things. And last semester of Insti, I thought I want to make more friends and, do only courses which I really enjoy doing. And I decided, okay, I'll go back to my professor and tell him that this is not what I want to do right now. And looking back, I feel it was a very good decision. And it was a decision which was taken with alignment with self. Like I was aligned that this is what I want to do. And it was a good decision. So I think once interest and alignment, that's very important to whatever you do. Yeah, that's
Right. So I think you bring up a pretty um, important point about, aligning where you are in your mental space at that time with what you want to pursue in Insti. So on a more positive note, what was one course that made a very positive impact on your life, or a course that you really enjoyed doing while you were at Insti?
I would really like to take this first. Uh, so this was the course by Shiva sir, The Happiness, Habits and Success. I'm not sure if any one of you have taken, but uh, that was a course I really enjoyed. We used to have like classes on Saturday evenings. Yeah, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, like 5 to 8:30, and I still remember the times when I used to walk to the placement office, like that's where we had the course, and come back, right? And while coming back, I was just like totally satisfied and energized and happy about being in the class. um, that's a course I suggest everyone to take, uh, because that is more about life skills. Like how do you live life? Like we have always learned how to get good grades, learned how to study well, learned how to solve good problems. Um, and at least for me, I think uh, just learning about different aspects, softer aspects of life around you, like being a part of social circles. How is happiness associated with the things we do? Um, yeah, I think there's just that overall personality development sort of happened in this course for me. And that's one course I really enjoyed doing. Did any of you attend that course, by the way?
I applied
No.
for it, but they didn't pick me. So I
So
think
those
there was
GN
this
courses
initial.
were hard to get into. Those life
Yeah,
skills courses
I
were hard
was
to get
really
into.
interested in this course. I know another friend who did it, but I think I certainly would have liked to do that course as well. I think the takeaway was that I remember reading the book before. I think he recommended a book which I had known, which I had read before, and I still use that, even if not like properly. I think it's certainly helpful to know more about, like how to overall have a positive approach towards how you manage your time, how you manage your life, and so on. So I think that is a very interesting course to do for sure. I would have loved to do that. But I did get a chance to do this other course, which was, I think, the course was just called Indian Art, which was offered in the HS department. It was one of my HS electives. So one of my goals in HS elective choosing was that I should not do a course which I can study from a book. So I wanted to do a course where the professor and the classroom actually mattered, because I had an opportunity to do 3 or 4, maybe I think I did 3 or 4 courses in HS. So I think I wanted to make the best out of those opportunities. So I did this course of Indian art, and I still go to some of these places where I've seen, like, so we did everything from like Indus Valley civilization to like Ravi Verma paintings in this one period of time. And I don't know if the course is still being offered, but I remember taking my entire family to Mahabalipuram specifically to talk to them about everything I learned in that course. And I still remember how I pulled up the slides in my lab one day and I talked to my lab mates about, oh, so this is the cab, which is like 8 tons, and it was like there. So I remember appreciating sculptures and art much more after that course. But on the technical side, I think more than a course, it was this one moment in my fourth semester where by then I had decided that material science was my thing, but then I forgot that I really like computer science as well. And there's this one professor, it was a core course, and we did a lot of maths in the course, but he told us there's this optional computational session, and I was just curious to go. And he was just giving us simple tasks of matrix manipulation using whatever language we wanted. And I sat down and wrote C++ code almost after like 1.5 years. And I was like, wait, why was I not doing this more? And then I think since then, I started taking up more and more of computing courses in material science and other departments. And I feel that that moment sort of has changed my entire interests towards a direction which I really like pursuing right now. So I feel like there was this nice mixture of courses that I did in Instea, which I certainly feel very proud of in retrospect, because Instea has so many great courses, but it's up to us to choose what aligns with our interests, like how Shruti put it. And irrespective of what other people feel, as long as it feels good to you, I think there is a lot you can take away from every single course. Because I've known people who have taken up courses in management studies, on creatives writing, and like H's, maybe even computer science and like ML or mechanical. I know people who have done some unique course which they really like, and that has certainly changed their entire perspective on what they want to do after that. So I certainly recommend putting a lot of thought into what you're doing if you have a chance to, is what I would say. Yeah.
I think I'd like to take the question now, because it's related to what Mythreyi said in terms of there not being a particular course, but also the classroom and the professors being a huge factor in how positively a course has impacted me. So I think I personally liked courses because of how they were taught, and the professors. There were 2 or 3 professors who I really liked because they taught really well, because they taught the basics, how to read and write and how to think critically. And I think I enjoyed all of their courses. So it was more of a professor and the teaching style having an impact on me than the courses in themselves.
Yeah, I can add my anecdote here. So as bad as an experience I had in digital systems, I had that much of a good experience for analog systems. And it was just the most wonderful class I had taken, because the professor was great. And for the first time, I had a study buddy for that course. So the 2 of us would solve those assignments together, discuss the lectures together, go back and watch the recordings of that lecture, rewatch the recordings. And I think we were just determined to do well in that class. And I think before the end semester exam, the 2 of us sat together and ideated what the professor could ask and how they could make it difficult, and then came up with questions they could ask. One of those questions actually came in the exam. So I think maybe that course and another physics course that I ended up taking were the only courses where, all the things really fell into place. The professor's instruction was amazing. There was a lot of, textbook and support material to help you through the course. And I was able to have a study partner to really make sure I was understanding things very well. And the fact that that course had this notorious reputation of being an extremely hard course, and I did so well in it, it really instilled so much confidence in me that I had lost in my first year. To this day, like, working on that breadboard, those 3 breadboards, was like maybe the most frustrating thing, but also rewarding thing I did while I was in Insti. And to this day, if I have to prototype something, or if I have to make something that's Arduino or anything that involves electronics, I still tap into the confidence that I got from that course these many years ago, where I'm like, if I could do that, this is nothing. Like I can make it through this if I could make it through that. So that was one course that was on the electrical engineering side. Um, and also towards my final year, I took a really advanced physics course. It was advanced statistical mechanics. And after again my first semester experience where I was looking at this professor in awe of all these like mathematical tricks that he was just, throwing out there, I remember solving an assignment or an maybe midterm and sem, I don't remember. I was using those same sorts of mathematical tricks very naturally at that time. And then I realized, that concept of doing something naturally takes a very long time. In your first semester, in your first year, you might be very inclined to feel like, I'm never going to be this. But that sort of intuition for like what kind of hidden patterns you're supposed to look for in these equations, how do you read an equation? And there's still a long way for me to go. I have so many years of grad school left to figure that out. But I remember in my final year thinking, wow, I really have come a long way.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I think positive experiences, as Mythreyi and Shruti said, it's not limited to one course. It's more around the whole learning and the whole department. I would say, like almost all the CS courses that I did had a positive impact on me, because like I can like maybe like take a few examples. So I think in like when I was learning about data structures and algorithms. So this was one course which was a really exciting course for me, especially because there were just like like very logical and structured ways of thinking, and very like very beautiful algorithms to solve some problems, and even the thought process behind those algorithms, the whole logic of how everything just comes into place when you just put it all together. So I think these things I absolutely enjoyed. Like there were a lot of courses here. There was discrete mathematics, data structures, algorithms, advanced like topics in data structures and algorithms, machine learning. So I think all of these really helped shape me, and even like all these courses had a lot of assignments, and they were also challenging, right? So it was not it used to take a lot of time to get it working, and like debugging it, figuring out why that code is not working, and you spend like like I would spend so much time trying to get that work, and and at the end when you see that it is actually working correctly, I think that joy was just unparalleled. And I learned a lot from each of the courses, each of my professors. And yeah, I think that overall this sort of helped shape my interest, and the reason why I pursued a career in tech. So I think this will always sort of be like a positive impact on me. Yeah.
Maybe we can take one last but very important question before we go to a rapid fire session, which is, the $1 million question. What is an ideal CG to have? Actually, Shruti, I feel like you should start because you were a placement coach and you must have seen thousands of resumes across different roles. So we need you to spill the tea. What is an ideal CG to have?
Yeah, so let me talk from the Shruti perspective and then come to the placement core perspective.
Sure.
Uh, I think ideal CG is like one can define their own ideal CG, and it really depends on what one wants to do. So, for example, like for me, I knew I did not want to get into entire academics going forward. Like, and I knew an ideal CG for me would be somewhere around 8.5 to 9, where I feel like I'm working, and it's also not something which is the topmost priority for me. So, uh, and now it can be different for different people. For them, like for someone, that can be the highest priority, and hence an ideal CG to be set. Um, so I think it's different for different people. And yeah, so And then if I look at the placement perspective, so I think if someone is looking for placements for companies, it's just an easier thing to see, to, understand you based on your performance in exams, because it's just an easier way to judge, evaluate, I would say. Um, and but that's not the only way as well. So there are other ways to identify and evaluate a candidate. Um, so I will. So I will. I don't know if there's ideal CG.
No, but I would really echo that sentiment, because I remember being on all sides of this question as a freshie wanting an answer to this. Later, I guess also when I was part of the placement team, being able to see the myriad of different kinds of cases, like there are people with a really high GPA, there's people with low GPAs, whatever those, definitions are for you. And they all more or less just, it was fine. And I think for me, the big takeaway from all of that is there is no number, right? And when I was in my first year, second year, it was very frustrating for me to listen to these sorts of long-winded answers that didn't give me a number. But the truth of the matter is there is no such number, because whether you want to sit for placements or you want to go for higher studies, no matter what you're applying to, your GPA is just one aspect of your candidature as a whole. And even when you're sitting for placements, the recruiter wants to see whether you're going to do well at the job. And there's many ways to demonstrate that. Similarly, if you want to do research, your prior research experiences are a much better indicator of how you are going to be as a researcher or a grad student. Though I will say a GPA is important. So obviously, the higher it's better, but don't view yourself singly through that lens. Yeah, so just if you have a few bad grades here and there, or more or less, as long as you are putting an effort into your coursework and you are happy with the amount of effort that you're putting in, you've struck your balance. I don't think whatever GPA comes out after that is going to restrict you from doing what you want to do. Maybe if you want to be a physicist, if that's your goal, then I don't think you have to have like a 9.99 GPA or something. And maybe your path will change a little based on what your GPA is, but I don't think you would have to give up fundamentally on your dream of becoming a physicist or a data scientist or stuff like that.
I think that's really important. I mean, the point you said about the effort being important, as long as you've put in the effort, it doesn't matter what number comes out of it at the end of the day. I think being happy with yourself, not having regrets in terms of what efforts you've put in, whatever number you get after that, that's the ideal CG.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. You can go ahead, Kavitha.
Yeah, I think similar to the sentiments that everyone expressed, there is no ideal number. There's no number. There's no particular CG which says that this is the ideal CG, right? It's all dependent on goals, on your interests, and maybe like someone is interested in a department other than their own, or maybe career goals don't even involve engineering at its core. So it would depend on all of that, right? And there's as like everyone rightly pointed out, there's just no single number to say that this is the ideal CG. And everything, there are a lot of other things which definitely come together, and this is not the only thing that is going to be defining. Like as I said before, a grade, a low grade cannot be a defining factor, and it is the process that sort of matters, and the enjoyment, and like how much you actually enjoy that process, how much you enjoy learning and doing what you're doing. I think that matters more, and grade is an outcome of the process, right? So yeah, I think this is what I would see.
Yeah, I echo pretty much everything that everybody has said so far. I strongly believe that GPA or a number would be a side effect of your efforts in some sense. And I also want to re-emphasize what Niharika said. I think a lot of us have all of us have a very unique journey through Instea, and it is very much possible that you only realize at a point you are into the program too deep to like change anything in the past, that wait, I want to do this, like, and at that point it does not necessarily mean that you cannot do it anymore because you made some mistakes in the past. I think it's a GPA can open gates for you. Yes, some people do worry about it, especially if you're applying to grad school. Certain universities do care a lot about like whether you are in the top X% of your class. But on the other hand, if all you want is like pursuing a certain area of research, there are plenty of other opportunities which are available to you, which you can work towards starting at that point. So I feel that at no point should it be a limiting factor, because irrespective of what you want to do, it's going to be one part of your entire application package, whether it be for like jobs or even your grad school application. So I think it's okay to realize at any point what your target is, even if you don't know it from the first, or even if you know it and you don't meet it, that's fine. Just focus on what's coming from now and try to identify what options you have starting at that point. So I think that's what I would say.
Right. Yeah, I think we scoped that question pretty well. So now moving to more lighthearted stuff, we're going to have a very quick rapid fire. Imagine you woke up one day as the HOD of your department and you could change one rule, one academic rule. What would it be? Mythreyi.
Probably an option to change your major at any point.
Interesting. Kavitha?
Probably the attendance rule.
Okay. Shruti?
I think just making all courses elective.
Ooh, bold. The next question, what was your post bad grade, bad exam, bad anything ritual in Instea? What would you do to feel better?
A little analysis on a mini post-mortem of sorts after a few hours or a few months, depends. But definitely going back at it and like looking at it once more to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I think I would like post a bad exam or something. I'd first sleep and forget about it sometime, and then go and have some sort of really tasty food to get my mind off of it. Probably like a cheese dosa or something. Seems to be really good at Instea.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar. Actually, I would go to CCD and eat some like burger or something. And
the next question, did you have any pre-exam shenanigans or superstitions that you followed during exam time?
I used to wake up very early on exam days and go to my exam halls at least 20 minutes before time, because I was always a person who used to dream that I would miss my exams because I stepped off. And while walking from the mess to the place, I would listen to a particular song every time.
Which song can you tell us?
It was actually a devotional song that I grew up listening to.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I would, I think on the day of the exam, it was not a superstition or anything, but for some reason, I would always have breakfast before the exam. I didn't have breakfast before classes, before 8 a.m. classes, but before 8 a.m. exam, for some reason, I would make sure I have a breakfast, and I would have a very light breakfast, because like, I would just have, a very, like, not something which was very heavy. And then, but otherwise, I don't think I had any sort of superstition or anything. Yeah, just this.
yeah, it's surprising how like me and Kavitha are going to talk about food.
I know.
So I think I'll also just have breakfast, but I'll have a proper breakfast. Like that would be my to-do list before exam. I can go late to the exam by 5 minutes, but I'll have and finish my breakfast.
I
So
see. So yeah, Mythreyi actually touched upon this, but have you guys ever missed an exam or had some sort of like recurring nightmare that you might miss an exam?
I used to worry that. And one day I woke up for an NSEM and I fell out of my bed in a very, very funny incident. And I bruised myself, and I thought I'm not gonna be able to write the exam, but I ended up writing it fine. So I think I'm just very scared of my health when it comes to exams, and I'm also scared that I would miss it.
Right.
Yeah, I have had, I think sometimes before the exam, I have had some sort of dream that I actually missed the exam, and then I would wake up and realize that no, there's still time for the exam. So, but I think in one instance, I woke up super late, uh, just just like, I don't know, 15 minutes before, not, I don't remember. And even on that day, I ran to the mess and had breakfast and still went even
Ooh,
very late.
priorities in the right place.
yeah, I think I've not really had that. I think I had it once because me and my friend, both of us stayed till like 4 o'clock studying for the exam. And then I was still fine because I knew my friend will wake up and she'll wake me up as well in time. So yeah, I don't think I missed an exam because of sleep.
What about your quiz week habits? Were there any peculiar things that you would do in quiz week, or something you noticed that was very strange about your routine or your behavior during quiz week?
Going
I
to
think,
library.
oh,
No,
sorry.
no.
No, I think I used to try to sleep properly during quiz week, because there have been a couple of quizzes which I didn't get a chance to sleep properly, but I tried to at least sleep for like 4 hours. That is a luxury sometimes, but at least 4 hours on quiz weeks, at least. I know that's a very low bar, but that was my ritual during quiz weeks. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think for me, quiz week, it was there would just be too many exams lined up one day after the other. And yeah, I think it was more around me trying to prepare like sort of manage how much time I would spend doing like studying for this particular exam or the next one. And like, like but it was still within like that whole week, and I would make sure that I still get some sleep. I don't think I put a night out before the day of a quiz. So I think that was one thing I'd make sure that I would get some sleep at least. Yeah.
I think quiz week just reminds me of, going to library, which is full of during quiz time. So yeah, I think there is nothing particular which, I think it's just about going and studying. And I was enjoying that part of like studying even during quizzes. So yeah.
And yeah, the final rapid fire question: what was your best exam experience in Instea?
For me, that would be the final exam I ever wrote in Instea. I did a very difficult 6,000 series mechanical engineering course in my final semester, as opposed to the general wisdom that you should not load up your final semester with too many assignments because you might be distracted with other activities that is going on. But I spent extra time, which the teacher was fine with giving because everything was virtual during COVID. And I wrote an exam sitting in my room at home for 6 hours for no reason whatsoever. And I spent every single minute of it enjoying the process. And it was a brilliant way to end my stint at Instea, doing something that I really liked. So I think that would be my favorite exam experience.
Yeah, I think I'm not able to pinpoint on a particular exam experience and say this one, but I think, and also because a lot of the fraction of grades used to be from assignments, which used to happen throughout the semester. But yeah, I think in general, it was like, I think in general, I enjoyed a lot of the exams because sometimes the paper would be like tougher than what you expected, or sometimes you just know that you'll be doing it well. So yeah, I think I'm not able to pinpoint on a particular exam and say that this one, but I overall enjoyed, the process like throughout. Yeah.
I think for me, the CS 101 course and the final NSEM for it was actually one of the best exam experience. Like, I think I just enjoyed the process of using my brain, constantly for that 3 hours to just solve the paper, which was very mathematical, very logical, and I felt like it was just a satisfying experience for me to like continuously use my brain uh, and do that exam. So that one exam experience really stands out to me whenever I think about Instea exams.
Okay, so we are done with the rapid fire, and now let's just end, I guess, this episode on a final note. What would you tell your freshy self, a line or two about academics? And we can follow the same order.
I think I would not disturb her. I think I would be like, you got this internally. But to be honest, I feel that everybody will eventually figure it out. But I would have liked to be more focused in my academics, maybe. But in retrospect, I really don't mind. Maybe I did have a good time, like, experiencing all of that before finding out that I liked it. So I think it's okay to do what you feel is right at that point. Yeah.
For me, I'd say have fun learning, have fun experimenting. Instea is the place where there's just a plethora of things that you can do. There's just so much to explore and learn. So just like do what you love doing. Don't stress out too much, and focus on doing the good work, and the results will follow.
Yeah, I would also say on similar lines, just do what you feel you are interested in and what you like, irrespective of what others around you do, because others, that aspect will keep changing. You will move from one place to other, and people around you will keep changing. So you are the only constant which will be there throughout, right? And you want to do what feels good to you and what you like to do. So just focus on what you want to do.
Yeah, for me, I think it would be to just worry a little less about, just worry a little less in general, and have faith that all the effort that you're putting into is just, it will have an impact in your life. It already was, because you're a wiser person every year, both in the academic sense and also in your personal life. But yeah, it's just keep putting in the hard work and don't forget to have fun. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys so much for agreeing to be a part of this episode. It was so great catching up with all of you, and hopefully, this episode gives some well-needed comfort to anyone who's listening to this with any amount of anxiety. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing.
Just connecting, reflecting, and loved having the session and learning from you all too. So.